Hello, it's John S. Sports Channel back again with everything Championship, League One and running. And today it's back with the Championship and we're looking at game week 8. We're going to go straight into it with Burnley versus Plymouth, and Burnley in 4th versus Plymouth in 16th. And Plymouth were just every bit on form last week, on fire against Luton. And they really did play really well. And we're going to be playing Burnley this time. So we've gone from Luton to Burnley. So it would have been looked at as being quite a difficult game normally. And, you know, with Burnley's exploits of the weekend being a pretty poor 0-0 against Oxford, where they just weren't clinical enough for me. I was going to go along with everybody else because everybody's saying like 2-0, 2-1 to Burnley. One or two people have said 1-1. And I've actually decided to go with those people who think because Plymouth were so good last week and because Burnley were just not clinical enough for me, I'm going to go for Burnley 1, Plymouth 1. Cardiff versus Millwall next. Cardiff in 24th versus Millwall in 15th. And I've been saying for a while, Millwall have been picking up. They've been getting just slightly better each week. 3-1 winners at home to Preston. Red card, of course, but not early enough to make any difference. They exploited that back line of Preston's quite well, didn't they? Cardiff, well, yeah, 4-1 defeat away at Hull, and Cardiff's defence just kept falling asleep. So I can't see Cardiff winning. I can't see there being many goals, and you can't either. And it's mainly 1-0s and 2-0s, and the odd perhaps 2-1 in there for Millwall. I'm going to go with most of you, and I'm going to go with Cardiff 0, Millwall 2. Coventry in 21st versus Blackburn in 3rd, and Blackburn are really playing well, aren't they? That final ball from QPR, if that had been better, I think Blackburn wouldn't have won that. In fact, they probably would have lost it. But as it was, they managed to win 2-0 at home to QPR, and I don't think that the QPR red card made much of a difference. They were in control of it most of the time, Blackburn. Coventry, I don't know what's going wrong. They look like scared rabbits. They gave too much respect to Leeds. They won't be doing the same the same at home against Blackburn, I don't think. Most of you, therefore, are thinking 0-0, 1-1 and 2-2. But I just think that Blackburn are on top of the world at the minute, and they just don't seem to be able to do any wrong. I think it will come to an end, but I don't think it'll come to an end in this game. I could be wrong, and most of you could be correct, and it's a solid 0-0, 1-1, 2-2 with a little bit of entertainment in here as well thrown in. I don't think it'll be a bore draw 0-0. But I'm going to go with Coventry 0, Blackburn 1. Luton in 19th versus Oxford in 11th. And Oxford, that 0-0 against Burnley, it was, to me, they were just stood in defence and giving again, they didn't give too much respect to Burnley, but they gave too much of the ball to Burnley, I think. They're away at Luton, and again, it's a similar game, but away this time. So against an ex-Premier League side that aren't actually doing that well, and you know they just didn't play. I don't know. They almost didn't turn up against Plymouth, and Plymouth did turn up and played really well. And it makes it a little bit difficult for me because what I'm seeing is a Luton side that could actually they could actually see something from this, but only because Oxford just didn't quite they didn't quite enamour me with that Burnley 0-0, because to me it was only they only got a 0-0 because Burnley were just not clinical enough to get the ball in the net. What are you all saying? Some of you are saying a 2-2. One person says a 1-1. Oxford not getting any of the results from you lot. There's a 1-0, 2-0 to Luton. I'm going to sort of go in the middle of all of you, and I'm going to go Luton 2, Oxford 1. But this could, I think, be one of those where it becomes a sort of 1-1. It could be a draw at the end of the day, but I'm going to go with Luton. Norwich City versus Leeds, and this is a really high-powered game. Norwich in 10th, going up the league now. They are starting to show the class that they've got against a Leeds United side that are actually doing quite well, and they certainly made the most of Coventry looking like scared rabbits. Norwich City are, like you say, they've been doing reasonably well in the last few weeks, and that defence was a little bit poor against Derby, and they were rather lucky with that ball that was definitely over the line, wasn't it? Before it was cut back into and put in the net. This is a difficult one. I can see this being a similar result to the weekend for Norwich, and I really can. That defence was a little bit poor, and I think Leeds will be able to get something out of this, especially out of that defence. I've seen 3-2, 1-3, 2-3. I've seen a lot of goals predicted, and in both directions. Which one am I going to go with? I'm going to go with the home side. I'm going to go with Norwich 3, Leeds 2. But it could be the same result, but opposite. I don't think it'll be a draw. I think one team will nick it in the last 10-15 minutes. QPR 17th versus Hull in 12th, and this is a quite evenly matched game. A lot of you saying 1-1. One or two saying Hull City will just manage to nick it 2-1. And I'm going to go with most of you, I think, because QPR, to me, they obviously got that red card. They didn't really have that final ball. They didn't have that final ball at all for me. Whereas Hull City, for that in that 4-1 win, they made the most of Cardiff's defence falling asleep. So I think if anybody's going to nick it, I think it will be them, and I think it's going to be QPR 1, Hull City 2. Sunderland Derby next, and of course Derby in 13th will be feeling rather hard done by that ball that was out, and Sunderland in second, who, well, everybody thought they'd win against Watford. They didn't, and I think it was a really well-matched game. I think most of the time, if that was played 10 times over, the other 9 times it would have been a draw. They both played really well. And I can see why they're near the top of the league, and I think for that reason, at home, it's going to be rather a red hot cauldron, won't it? It is bound to be at Sunderland. They have a huge fan base up there. What are you lot saying? 1-0, 2-0, 3-1. I'm going to go right down the middle. I'm going to go Sunderland 2. Derby 0. I think they might score Derby, but if they do, I think it'll be a consolation late on. West Brom first versus Borough in 8th, and Borough have been surprising me, because I thought they'd do quite well at the start of the season. They did win as we expected against Stoke. That defence just not quite working. The high line and the offside trap didn't work, and Borough made the most of it. And they're playing West Brom, who yeah, that they have been playing really well, um, but they just couldn't finish, and that feed into the final third was really poor as well for West Brom. I don't think they even really turned up against Sheffield Wednesday, and of course they lost, and they were. I was surprised they got so many goals, to be quite honest, because the ball was the final finish was poor, and that feed was missing most of the time, and it makes it quite difficult this one because they've got to be more clinical, and especially against a Borough side. But they are at home, and I can see, but I can see why there's 1-0s in both directions from you lot, and there's 2-1s in both directions. And I'm thinking, how the hell do I put this one out? And in the end, I'm gonna go with the home side again. I don't think there's going to be many goals. I think it could be 1-0 either way. I don't think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a 1-0 either way, and I think it's going to be West Brom 1, Borough 0. Sheffield United in 6th versus Swansea in 9th, and I say most of you going with Sheffield United here, although Swansea have now started to show that they can actually score, and I think there's a high chance that they could just surprise us all and walk away with a sort of 2-3-0 win. But I can see where most of you are coming from. I think Sheffield United just have the edge, and I think even though they only managed a 0-0 draw against Portsmouth, it was end-to-end stuff, and it was really enjoyable to watch. And I can really see, Sheffield United's enthusiasm was shining through in that game, but so was Portsmouth's. So I'm sort of enjoying the football from Sheffield United, but Swansea have been equally really, really good for their money. And I'm finding it tough to do it. I'm going to play my joker here. I really am going to play my joker, and I'm going to go with I'm going to go against everybody. Everybody's saying 2-0, 2-1, 3-1 to Sheffield United. I'm going to go Sheffield United 0, Swansea 1. So my joker played, I'm going to go into Preston in 22nd versus Watford in 7th, and Watford have been doing quite well. 2-1 winners over Sunderland, which is no mean feat. And they played really well, and it was a really well-matched game. I think they're playing Preston, and Preston haven't been really showing what they can do. And that's showing in the fact that they're in 20th place, and that high back line, will it work? I just can't see it working against this Watford team, who have got the bit between their teeth. You're all saying 2-1, 2-0. One or two people thinking it might be a draw, 1-1. I'm going to go with Preston 0, Watford 2, and agree with most of you. Stoke City versus Portsmouth, and Portsmouth in 23rd, Stoke in 20th, but Portsmouth have been playing very well for the majority of it. Once or twice they've just not turned up, but most of the time they've actually been really good, and their draws. I mean, they're draw champions, aren't they, this year? They're the top side for draws so far, against a Stoke side that just keep making mistakes at the back. 2-0 defeat against Borough. That they keep playing the offside trap, and I think that Portsmouth will be able to beat that. Most of you thinking it's going to be a high scoring game. I'm not sure I agree with that. There's some saying 2-1. There's some saying 3-2. There's one saying 3-2. There's some saying 1-1 and 2-2. That it's going to carry on with a draw. I'm going to think. I just think outside the box here, and I'm going to go with Stoke 0, Portsmouth 1, and go for their first win. Bristol City in 14th versus Sheffield Wednesday in 18th, and I think Bristol City's poor defence. Will they be able to change it? The thing for me is that Bristol keep doing their old thing from 2 or 3 years ago, where they play really well one week and then really awful the next, and they're at home and they're 14th and they're playing a Sheffield Wednesday side that themselves have been a little bit prone to being good one week and bad the next. And yeah, they won 3-2 at home to West Brom, but yeah, West Brom really should have been a lot more clinical, and had they been more clinical, I think that Wednesday would have done their usual collapse and not scored the 3 goals they did. As it was, West Brom weren't clinical, and Wednesday took the benefit of it and really started running rampage at times during the game anyway. So this is another difficult one for me, because I think Bristol City will come back fighting and will want to prove that they can play well. But Sheffield Wednesday have got that bit between their teeth, and that after that result, they will think, yeah, we can take Bristol City. And 90% of you are calling draws. 90% of you are saying it's going to be a score draw, 1-1, 2-2, 3-3. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to absolutely agree with you, and I do agree with you. I think it's going to be Bristol City 1, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe, and you will see more, including a watch-along on Saturday and possibly one tonight. So, John S. Sports Channel, over and out. Like and subscribe.